Hi Luca, hi Conrad. How have you both
Hello.
been?
Hi, Tisha.
Quite all right, thank you.
Yes, let's
How
let's
are you?
pretend that
I'm,
we haven't been backstage for the last 10, 15 minutes talking to
Totally
each other.
not. It's
yeah, of
spontaneous.
course.
Actually, who are you guys again?
Yeah. Um, can everyone see us live? I presume they can. There is about a 10, 15 second lag, so they might probably see us a little later. So welcome everyone to the latest episode of Expert Insights Live. We've got our two experts from Kaggle this time, and they've got a brilliant new book coming out. So before we move ahead with anything, uh, why not start with basic introductions? So, gentlemen, if you can just take the floor. Luca, why don't you start with introducing yourself?
Okay, I'm Luca Massaron. I'm a long-time Kaggle competitor. Of course, I'm a data scientist because later we will explain what Kaggle is and how it relates to data science. And I also have written a few books on data science and AI, and this Kaggle book is the latest one.
Perfect. And Conrad, if you can introduce yourself as well.
Hi, I'm Konrad. I'm a data scientist. I've been making a living crunching numbers for quite a long time. As in, I remember when the joke data scientist is a statistician with a MacBook was still funny. Uh, Spent quite a few years on Kaggle. Yeah, that's I think the relevant bits for the sake of this meeting today.
Oh dear God, modest. Both of them are so extremely modest. Luca and Conrad are grandmasters on Kaggle. Uh, Luca, what was your highest ranking on Kaggle?
I arrived once being the seventh in the global rankings in competitions.
And when you say, so that was world number seven on competitions, right?
Yes, right, correct.
Where, where,
It was
where do you get such
quite,
humility from?
it has been quite a long time ago. It was 2014, 15, a different, geological era in data science.
Amen to
But
that.
yeah, I can remember, but it was great.
Barely.
A lot of
We've
tabular
got,
data everywhere.
oh dear.
Yes.
We've got quite a few people joining in now. Hi,
Hi,
Filippo.
Filippo.
Filippo saying hi to the both of you. Hi, Filippo.
Yes.
Hi.
Hey, Filippo.
So,
Glad to have you here.
yes, I guess we are live. We've got many people live. I can see Somesh. Hi, Somesh. Hi, Divakar. He shares my last name. Hi, Divakar. Uh, so let's start
Speaking
with
of
this.
sorry, speaking of names popping up, I'd like to make a disclaimer in advance. I most sincerely apologize for mispronouncing some names I'll be reading. I tried purely on intuition to read some of the Indian names, and I am horrible at it. The fact that I've never been to India might be a bit of a defense here. So I apologize a priori. I'll do my best.
I'll help you with the Indian name, so don't worry about it.
Appreciate it.
So I'll take care of that. So yeah, before we move ahead with the session, let's start with the most basic question. Luca, you could start with this. What is Kaggle and why is it important?
First of all, Kaggle is a data science competition platform, and that should tell everything. A platform means it's an integrated environment where you can find different features all aimed at allowing people on Kaggle to compete on data science problems. And the second question, why is it important, can be answered because it can make you a better data scientist. And we will discuss at length with Conrad during this intervention about how it can make everyone a better data scientist.
Brilliant. So, Conrad, you're an expert on Kaggle discussions, right? You're a grandmaster in discussions.
I've I've done my share of talking in public about it, yes. And people seem to appreciate what I have to say, so I'd say that's a yes.
So I'm pretty sure a lot of people come to you asking questions about how do I start my journey on Kaggle? So
That's
how would
pretty
you answer
simple.
that?
That's pretty simple. Pick a competition that doesn't terrify the daylight out of you based on description and start. And be prepared for the fact that you're gonna be served a big fat portion of humble pie. Like recently, I dug up some of my own code from I think one of my first competitions, which so help me God was over 10 years ago. Uh, I read it, I blushed a couple times, and then I deleted it so to make sure no one ever sees it again, because I didn't like my own progress at the time. But it was a very educational moment. So on a minimally more serious note, just start competing. Just start competing. People sometimes think what you need to do is, sit down, study, prepare, yada. And yes, all of those things help. But at the end of the day, nothing beats practice. Nothing beats practice. Sure, at some point, once you've run out of, the basic ideas that just environment inspires you to have, you need to deepen your knowledge a little more. For starters, well, understanding what is it the transformers actually do kind of helps to squeeze a little extra, but start competing. Read the discussions, a lot, and then take it from there.
All right. And so there is a question relating to that. Kisale inquires how to
Mhm.
keep foundational things strong.
The question is how do you define foundational? Like, there are bits of theory that are really really useful for competing on Kaggle, like at least a modicum of linear algebra helps, so that you understand, for instance, I don't know, say your metric is area under curve, then if you have a score on your results, then multiplying it by 2 is not going to change things, because sorting is invariant to that. Those kinds of things, understand that. Or having a little bit of calculus helps, mostly because, well, just about everything relies in modern algorithms on gradient descent in some shape or form, which means if the thing you have underneath is non-differentiable, you're in trouble. It's kind of good to know when you're going to end up in trouble, so that you don't waste time like debugging your code, because well, that's just a class of problems where this is not going to work. There's a couple of good courses, probably several, on both. I mean, I studied math, so refreshing that knowledge for me is a slightly different experience, probably, so hence not that useful to everyone, for than someone who doesn't have that kind of background and needs to pick it up. So I would hesitate to give a recommendation. Just give it a try.
Now, there is another question by Kisalia, and over here, I think I should be plugging in things. How to be good at Kaggle? I've got a recommendation for you, Kisalia, and here it is.
Yes.
So,
That might help.
so, so Luca and Conrad have written this amazing book, which publishes on 22nd April, as you can see, and they've shared their entire experience of why Kaggle is good. And we've got a forward from none other than the founder and CEO, Anthony Goldblum. And
Shout out to Anthony.
yeah, special thanks to him for sharing such kind words about the book. He read the book and he really liked it. And that's the reason why he shared these kind words about it. And Anthony, Luca and Conrad have shared their experience on the book page on Amazon directly. And these are the 31 people who are Kaggle grandmasters and masters who've shared their experience in the book. Uh, a lot of them are extremely popular. When you look at the Amazon page, you see their pictures and their names, you would realize who these people are. And they've all shared their experience within the book. So do have a look at the book page to understand it better, and you would know why to purchase this book. So yeah, that answers your question, Kisale, over here. Why, how to be good at Kaggle? That's how you can be good at Kaggle, by picking up this book. So, Luca, I actually wanted to ask you a question about while we are waiting for others to take things forward. Uh, so, what can people expect from Kaggle? So for someone who is new, and there are different modules in Kaggle, competitions is one, and discussions is the other. What are the other things that people can expect from the platform?
Well, first of all, apart from discussions, which are very, very important, and they are also one of the motivators that led us writing this book, because we notice it every time you start a Kaggle competition, unless you have a very long experience on Kaggle, you always have to discover again the warm water. It means you have to discover, for example, how to contain the dimension of your neural networks or your dataset, how to do basic things like cross-validation in a very effective way for a competition, and so on. Of course, all these aspects will spontaneously appear in discussions along the time. Sometimes they do never. It really depends on the people who are on the competition and their willingness to share. So we wanted to put everything we knew could have helped any competitor in any competition on Kaggle in written form, so they can immediately assess it. So discussions are really very important. But if you want to get into the heat of a competition, you have to look into notebooks. Notebooks present how the people in the competition are looking at the data and are solving the problem the competition poses. So by looking at the code, you can have many insights on what others are doing, on what works and what not. And of course, it can upstart your being the competition. So I remember my first competition, it was kind of very difficult because there was some discussion, but very little. There was no sharing of notebooks or code of whatsoever form. So you had to build everything from scratch. Okay, it's a very good school. I recommend build your own solutions. Don't rely on others. Don't copy and just, change a few parameters. Build your own code. But if you really want to accelerate this process, look also at other people's work, and notebooks are the right place where to start.
Right.
Here.
And Conrad, what would you suggest for someone new? What are the modules and how they can make the most of Kaggle?
Pick a topic that interests you, because there are a few things worse than forcing yourself to go into a field which you don't find that interesting. And then as a first step, pick one of the, what are they called now? Getting started, playground. I know the name has changed once or twice. One of those. If you go to the main competitions page, they are usually the ones towards the end section. And pick one that's in a field that interests you and get into that one. Yes, of course, it might feel like I'm an expert in something else and now I have to go into the playground. But listen, everybody's gone through that stage. If anything, I wish there was a playground competition where I started, but because then maybe my learning curve would have been a tiny bit less steep. Yeah. But start there, and then things are most likely to happen organically. You go okay, I figured out the basics of time series. I can get my hands on something more serious, as in one of the what do you call it, featured competitions.
Perfect. So Bharat inquires, will this be available in India too? Bharat, yes, you can purchase the book directly on Amazon or on our website, pack.com. It is available worldwide. So yeah, you can get the book. There is a question from Fran. How much do skills from Kaggle competitions transfer to your data science job and vice versa? I suppose you don't have to do much of, say, EDA. Explanatory data analysis, I believe.
Yes, explanatory data analysis. The EDA part is kind of true, although I wish it weren't, because in a lot of applications, like in a data science job, people don't care. I wish they did. Because they would have said that would have saved them a lot of pain in a lot of situations, but frequently they don't, and that's just the reality. So there's a bit of a missionary among the wildlings kind of vibe to getting people to do EDA. In terms of transferring to your data science job and vice versa, quite a lot. I know a lot of people have a popular edgy line saying Kaggle is not real life. I'm like, well, sometimes real life doesn't feel like real life, especially if you read the news over the last couple of years. So there's that argument, but minimally more seriously. For starters, it forces you to pay attention to cross-validation, which is something I seriously wish was more seriously treated or more thoroughly in your, statistics/data science curriculum. Teaches you to pay attention to stuff like missing values, in particular, when can you get away with ignoring it and when not really. So there's that. And on top of that, it gives you access to close to cutting edge stuff. As in, someone unleashes, say, paper comes out, like efficient net. Within a quarter at the latest, someone's gonna hack through, probably shorter, a first clumsy and bound with a wing on a wing and a prayer implementation, but it will be there. Pretty much guaranteed somebody's gonna try and crash test it on Kaggle. So it's a relatively two for the price of one kind of thing where you can stay up to date on the newest developments. In terms of going back from the job to Kaggle itself, a little less so maybe, but to a degree as well. But the more important direction is definitely from Kaggle to a job. Sorry, there's a follow-up. I asked because of something.
So the follow-up is over here.
Yeah.
On your screen. I asked because
Yeah.
for software engineering, online competition such as code forces are usually about recognizing some algorithms, which doesn't always translate well to the actual job.
It is an issue. It is an issue because in Kaggle, well, you're running in a GPU empowered environment where somebody kind of shout out to Kaggle people, make sure the Docker image works, and you can just start running things, which, let's call it politely, is not necessarily the case in real life. It's less perhaps even about availability of data, because data can be plenty messy in Kaggle as well, but the fact that the environment works. That is a nice thing which you don't always get in real life. On the other hand, teaches you a certain standard, which maybe we should aspire to a little more as an industry.
Yeah, but there's also another thing. Correct me if I'm wrong over here, Luca and Conrad. There are a lot of top tech giants who recruit people from Kaggle directly, looking at the performances on competitions.
I'm not sure how far. Well, they probably are. There used to be actual job competitions where the award was.
There were a few ones.
I'm not sure whether it was a job or jump starting part of the evaluation procedure in an application. But there used to be. I think Facebook ran one.
Yes, did.
Santander, I don't think that was the one. There was some telco running one as well, but I can't remember. Australian, I think. But yes, people have started noticing it more and more in the last couple of years.
And there are also a lot of cash prizes that go out on Kaggle.
It doesn't hurt.
So it's like a win-win.
Yeah. Actually, I remember it was a much hotter environment for recruiters once upon a time, because data science was kind of very scarce skill. So you had to snowball your knowledge of data scientists, and you have to go exactly where they all gathered. And it was Kaggle. Nowadays, it's easier to find data scientists if you want, but we know that actually, if you can rank high on Kaggle, you have some kind of, spot on. You are more noticeable, and it's much easier for you to represent about your skill and knowledge than in other cases than just present yourself on the basis of what you studied or just on your past experiences. So it's still, I think, a good place to make yourself notice it and to emphasize your skills.
Yeah. So, Luca, I also wanted to ask another thing. Over the last year, while we've been developing the book, I think we've discussed this on and off again, that will this book be limited to someone who is new to data, new to machine learning, or new to the platform Kaggle? Or would it be a good resource even for people who are veterans on Kaggle?
Well, actually, we thought about the book as something that has to be applied on Kaggle. So we didn't want to make the book just for, I want to start my career in data science. Where do I start? So it's not for absolute beginners. If you want to tackle with a book from a very beginner, point, okay, you first have to study some foundations. You have to gather, some basic knowledge of algorithms, scikit-learn, and so on. We thought it as an intermediate level book because there's a complete lack of that kind of material. So if you already know what is data, what is linear regression, you can apply a gradient boosting. Maybe you don't know how to tune it perfectly. You can, just change a few features with pandas. Okay, you are good for the book. If you
Mhm.
really are zero, no. First start with something else and then go to our book. Because competing on Kaggle, even the playgrounds requires a certain amount of basic skills. But
Yeah.
when you have that basic skills, you approach the competition and you leverage the knowledge we offer to you by our book, you can accelerate your progression and your learning. Because the idea is on Kaggle, you have occasion to meet problems, data, and algorithms that normally you don't encounter in your job.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I had as a feedback from companies I worked for in the past is, Luca, when you see at the data, when you see at the problem, you can skip a large part of experimentation because it seems you already had a lot of experience with similar data. And so you can
Mhm.
already very quickly just go to the things that work and that perform. And that's true. Why? Because I had a lot of experience on Kaggle. If you take 50 competition, if you take 100 competition, you have an experience much more than any job experience you can have in multiple years. So it's a very important accelerator. But if you want to start, you need to have some basics. And that's the reason why we address to an intermediate level.
So when you say Luca an intermediate level, am I right in saying that the intermediate level would be in their data and machine learning expertise and not Kaggle platform? So for Kaggle
Yes,
platform, it can be zero experience, right?
yes, you don't
Yes.
need any experience on Kaggle, correct?
Perfect. And Conrad, a follow-up to that. So
Hmm.
let's say that there are a lot of people who are inquiring about Kaggle as a platform and how they can make the most of it. When you started working on the Kaggle platform, how much time did you invest on Kaggle, let's say in a day or in a week? How many hours would that be?
I'm kind of embarrassed to answer that question because I seem to have a bit of an addiction problem to all things
Oh,
data science and machine learning, as in I do it
right.
for a living in my day job. And on top of that, outside office hours, I actually do Kaggle. So, kids, warning from the health ministry: careful be careful, or you'll end up like me. Because the thing is, you start, yeah, I'll double a little bit with that. Let's see how that works. And then before you know it, you're hooked. Not even necessarily to a degree like social media being hooked, but
Hmm.
it's like, yeah, I did this. That's how it worked in competition. Oh, that's what I missed. Yeah, okay. But there's another competition coming up of that kind. Now I know what I did wrong. It's like, someone coming out of a rubble from an exploded experiment. I know what went wrong. It's going to go right this time. And before you know it, it sucks you in. I would argue, as addictions go, there are worse things to do. So I am not that concerned. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, if you're strong-willed, you can limit it to two hours a week, although that would be probably a little short. Uh, I can't remember. Who was it? Mark Landry, I think. But at some point, he literally had a job description. I think when he was in NVIDIA. I'm so sorry if Mark is listening to this and I'm getting this wrong. I'm so sorry. And it said something like, "My job is competing on Kaggle almost." So some people manage to combine the passion and the job.
And Luca, how many hours would you recommend someone? Because nowadays people do have like even y'all had full-time jobs back then when you started it, and
Yes.
it's getting all the more tricky right now with work from home and expectations from everyone. So how much time should one person invest in Kaggle in a day or in a
Yes.
week?
As Cora remarked, also in my case, the number of hours I devoted to Kaggle is kind of a confidential information that we would never release for, everyone's sake. Uh, Myself, along the years, I had different, engagements with work, with family, life goes on. So a lot of people ask me, but how can you do it? How many hours do you
Yep,
sleep? But I say I sleep,
not enough.
the
Not
necessary,
enough is the answer.
always not enough. Necessary
and,
hours.
and see, I see Gabriel just mentioned it in a comment. Gabriel, spot on. I'm a data scientist by day and Kaggle by night. Yep,
But
yep, sounds
Yeah,
about
at
right.
night, I know
there
GPUs
is a
run
question by
faster.
yeah. There is a question by Sagar saying the same thing. He also wants to know how to balance things. Sagar, before we move ahead with answering this, the backgrounds that you see for Conrad and Luca, that is the amount of time they've invested and their heads have blown up. And you can see those tiny pieces and the geniuses in their background.
No,
So,
we finished. We finished
Yeah.
writing the book. This is an artifact from my brain exploding along the way. This is just splatter.
Scattered everywhere.
so yeah, how much time, how would you propose that people balance their daytime job with competing on Kaggle? What Gabriel is saying, is this spot on?
Totally,
Or
totally, 100%. Yes,
Yeah,
Gabriel nailed it. Yes.
that's quite correct. That's quite correct. You can also, scratch some time early in the morning, late in the afternoon. There are many, many occasions. But
I mean,
let's say
the,
this,
sorry.
let's not scare our listeners.
No,
Let's say
I mean,
this.
for what it's worth, so that people don't get utterly terrified that you are talking to two addicts in withdrawal phase. Listen, it takes a bit more time at the start when you have to build up sort of your own code base. Like,
yeah.
okay, code base is a big word for the junkyard that passes for mine, but it's about things like, okay, say I encounter a new competition which is dealing with images, and the images are huge, like 50 gigs worth of it. You're not going to iterate over the original sizes all the time. First thing you need to do is get a pipeline working, which is, I mean, it won't produce a competitive score, but for testing, if it works, it's fine if you do it on, I don't know, from full size to okay, 128 is maybe a bit low, but 256 by 256, which means you have a script that you recycle over and over for rescaling images to a smaller size, so you can iterate through it faster. Scripts of your own or notebooks, whatever floats your boat, for things like cross-validation, same thing. First few times you use them like, blimey, I'm rewriting the same thing for a fourth time in 3 months. How about I do it once properly and then just reuse it as a tool? You reach that stage sort of organically.
Yeah. And also, just to inform all the viewers over here, Gabriel Prada is also one of the contributors in the book.
Yes.
Thank you for that,
Yes.
Gabriel. I hope you're
Thank you,
listening to this.
Gabriel.
Totally. Thanks for the contribution over. Yes, most certainly. Someone asked me how many hours do I put in boxing? 6 hours a week, roughly 3 times.
Okay, so we're randomly just asking questions now. So, okay, 6 hours a week. Where do you get all this energy from? I'm pretty sure caffeine, or all the caffeine makers, they come to you for some energy and strength for their caffeine drinks.
I stopped drinking coffee. I actually stopped drinking coffee, and what helped with that, paradoxically, is one of the few things, even the silver linings in the pandemic and working remotely, because I realized I was only drinking coffee in the office. In general, I'm very much a tea person. So, much as I love my adopted homeland of Netherlands, there's one thing with which England has a leg up, and that's the fact that
in the wrong countries.
It's a tea country. Now, you can get good tea here, so it's not enough to change the side of the channel.
All right. And so a follow-up question by Sagar is it better to form teams or to compete or just to go solo when you start competing on Kaggle?
Yeah,
Depends.
It
Early
Luca,
on, you start probably with solo, then you figure out, actually, there's a bunch of guys in similar level to me, so maybe we can team up. And it usually surfaces either in discussions, there's almost always looking for a team mega thread or something like this, or in the semi-official or maybe quite official by now, Kaggle Slack channel, namely the Kaggle Noobs. There's always someone searching for things like that. And then when you get to further stages, like for instance, you want to go higher in the competition ranking, if you focus on that, then you need a certain amount of solo medals. So then, if you want to progress in the ranks, competing solo occasionally becomes a sort of necessity.
Yes, true. But also when you want to learn, actually, if you are solo, it's a little bit better because you can give yourself the right pace. So coming back to the idea, I have limited time, I have family, I have a lot of work. How can I handle? You just decide what you want to reach with a competition. Do you want to learn the stuff around the competition? Do you want to learn maybe some skill related to TensorFlow or PyTorch? So by setting even more manageable objectives and devoting some time, for example, reproducing notebooks, participating in discussions, trying small solutions of your own, actually you can manage better your time and still keep on learning. And in this case, being solo is better. But if you want really to, climb the ladder of a leaderboard, sometimes, collaboration is very important, because in many competitions, you need to ensemble your models. So you need very diverse models, and only different minds and different attitudes to the problem of the data can bring the most value when you are building an ensemble. So in that
Right.
case, teaming is really essential.
Correct.
Right.
Can
Philosophically
I make
thinking.
one
Yeah.
pause for a shout out? Andrada, cheers for Team T. And can I just say from this spot, I'm a giant fan of your notebooks. I'm a giant fan.
And also, again, a quick shout out. Andreda is also one of the contributors on the book. She's a Kaggle grandmaster too.
She kind of decided to do
I'm
it.
so
So
happy to
thanks for
I'm
that.
so happy that
Yeah.
all the contributors are joining, and thank you so much for that. And coming back to Gabriel's point over here,
Mhm.
he also suggests the same thing. He contributes a lot on data sets
Yeah.
as well.
Oh
And
yes, respect. I know.
yes,
I follow quite closely.
yeah, so it is quite important philosophically thinking, firstly, to going solo and understanding what your strengths are. So when you form an alliance or a team, you would know how you can contribute and how everyone can add value to your team competitions. So understanding your strengths and others that you want to be a part in the team.
Mhm.
There is another comment by Filippo. Coming from sport, I need competition. I feel the need of facing challenges. Kaggle, in this case, I assume, is really worldwide playground where trying to play and learn, feeling the competition.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
If you are looking for
Absolutely. You're in the right place
competition,
for that.
yeah, you are in the right place.
A lot of shout outs for Andreda. So thank you, Andreda, and
Deservedly
thank
so.
you,
Come on.
Gabriel. Yeah. Yeah. So what else would you recommend? There was a question that I spotted a little early on that, oh yeah, I found it now. So Shubham inquired, what would your advice be for early phase data scientists? Should they spend more on books or should they spend more time on Kaggle?
Both,
Question is,
actually.
spend what, time or money?
Both. This
I'm not trying to be a troll. It's a
yeah.
God's honest point to make here, because in terms of time,
Mhm.
uh, riffing off Lucas' earlier point, you need some foundations. So you
Yeah.
understand how scikit works. You understand what a logistic regression is, what it can do and what it cannot do. And then you can start looking further. Although, to be fair, you can to a degree substitute book-based education. Geez, I sound like a crazy, I don't know, Z generation, despite the fact being twice their age. Namely, there are the Kaggle courses, which can kind of serve as an entry point if you have absolutely zero clue about a certain field. So that gets the job done. But practice, what I said earlier, practice, and then practice some more.
I can tell also my experience, because when I started doing Kaggle, I was at a transition in my career, because I spent most of my career before Kaggle doing marketing research, so doing multivariate statistics, which is quite different from machine learning. So when I started, I used very basic models from statistics, some random forests, which were magic, but we were using R.
Yes.
There were the R package. Oh,
Oh,
great! We can use
the
it.
good old days. The good
Yeah, the
old
good
days
old
when
days.
anybody actually still used R on Kaggle.
Yeah. So
So
basically, I tried Kaggle competition. I failed. I get back on books and especially at that time,
Yep.
Coursera courses. I learned
Oh,
something new.
yes.
I rush back to Kaggle, try again, and then go back to courses. So basically, it's a far dichotomy saying, I need books, I need Kaggle. You need both. You need to use both ways. And especially if you're a
yeah.
person who learns by doing, you should overweight Kaggle.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So before we move ahead with questions, everyone, if you please can continue popping in your questions. That would be really helpful. We will move ahead and do the first draw. So this is what it looks like. Luca and Conrad, I didn't show it to you on purpose early on. So I just hit draw and look at this. It'll pick up a name. And these are the people who've been commenting hashtag packed in the comment section. And our first winner is Abisoye. So Abisoye, if you're still
Congratulations,
watching it
Abisoy.
live,
Great.
yes, congratulations. Please drop me a message directly on LinkedIn and I will get your ebook to you. Just don't forget to drop me a message on LinkedIn. Congratulations once again. And we'll do another raffle towards the end of the session. Uh, so I wanted to inquire, Luca, Conrad, while we're waiting for other questions. Now let's imagine I'm a data scientist in the financial industry and all. So would I find, or let's say I'm in a publishing industry, so I do data scientist in the publishing industry. I go on Kaggle. Now there is no exact example or data set for publishing industry. How
Mhm.
do I extract that knowledge and apply it to my work life?
Well, it's mostly thematic. So basically,
Mm-hmm.
if you are in the publishing industry, you're working with text, right? So you
Hmm.
should be very aware of all the textual competition on Kaggle, for instance.
NLP for the win. Yes.
Yeah, if you are in finance, okay, just look around, and there are many, many interesting competitions. From the unusual ones, for example, the one about storage, sales, so everything about historical time series, to one that are, especially finance ones. We had a lot recently, and so
Mm-hmm.
you just look by theme, so by type of data you're working on. I'm working with tabular data. Am I working with images or text? So you can find every time something new to learn, even in
Hmm.
the unexpected situation where you have
Very
a
much so.
completely different competition from whatever you're working on, and suddenly it pops up a topic which is related, for example, to an evaluation metric, which is substantially
Hmm.
very important to you.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I remember in one situation, the quadratic kappa came up, and that has been enlightening for a lot of applications that in the following
Correct.
months and years I applied in my own job. And that's just a single example. There are many, many, many.
Quadratic Kappa, that was the one with matching ratings, right? Like trying to
Yes,
replicate what people are
yes,
doing in the Crowdflower, something like this. I think that
yes,
was the first
yes,
one where I
yes,
ran
yes.
into this one. Yeah. Got a
Yes, and
question.
Pathfinder too.
Oh,
Basically,
oh, Pathfinder. Yeah.
yeah, basically, I immediately spotted the evaluation method because, coming from, advertising and multivariate statistics, I had a lot of time, working with uh, judges, matching agreements. So especially
Hmm.
in psychometric, you have to figure out if
Mm-hmm.
you are measuring the right thing. And
Right.
since what you measure is human, you have many human judges. And you want to
Mm-hmm.
figure out if their evaluation is actually kind of correlated, associated, because there's something latent between their,
Yeah.
their judgment, or just by chance. And
Yeah.
that's fundamentally very important for all ordering statistics and ordering modeling.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's come up, as an enlightenment moment and say, wow, everything that's, pop-ups in this competition, every code, every evaluation, every testing, that should be immediately studied and maybe reapplied in other, context.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Right.
what I did. And I imagine, as a publishing editor, as an expert in finance, as,
Hmm.
a data scientist working in advertising, everyone can find in Kaggle competition something of interest that won't easily appear in one's job. And
Yeah.
that's, the kind of key moment when you learn something that really can change the way you make projects and you develop your own models.
Great. Thanks a lot for answering that, Luca. There is another question that we've received from Kisale who says, how do I load in this huge CSV file without crashing in Kaggle.
That's a quick jump from
Hmm.
high level to micro.
Yeah.
Indeed, like load sequentially train a model. Pretty sure Scikit has some functionality for that. I don't remember because I haven't used it in a while, but go in the direction of online models. So you read chunk of your data, train on that, dump it, move to another chunk, train on that, yada yada iteratively.
Yeah.
Or do Vopal. I know people call me a throwback to a bygone era, but I still believe Vopal Wabbit is, AK-47 of ML algorithms. I haven't yet managed to find something that would make it blow up. And I tried. I really did.
I'm pretty
All
sure
right.
you did.
I was a big fan of Warpal Wabbit too. I once applied it, in an image competition, and actually I write ninth.
Wow.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Yeah.
The famous
Not
dogs
bad at
and
all.
cats competition. Because at
Bloody
that
hell, I am
time,
so I am so regretting that I missed that one.
Yeah, you threw in the
basically,
tips at the wrong time.
yeah, quite a
Whenever
long
you
time
know there's a
ago.
bug.
We have
Anyway,
two
for
fantastic questions from Bharat, I see.
Yeah. So Bharat is inquiring, do you recommend applying the learnings from this book directly in the next Kaggle competition?
Well, of
Yeah.
course
of
we do. It
course,
will make you it
Yeah.
will make you popular with your romantic interest. It will make your skin look better, improve the power of the engine in your car, and also give you a fantastic starting point in a next kind of competition. Jokes aside, yes, as a starting point, I mean, just so we're absolutely clear,
Hmm.
if you're in an image competition, this will give you a start, be it classification, for instance, the chapter, which one is it? 10th, I believe, on images, or segmentation or something. The methods we talk about, they will give you a start. That being said, I quoted in that chapter quite a bit Chris Deot, to whom, again, giant shout out, because reading this guy's notebooks is an education in its own right. And he's quite generous with his time and the quality he shares with. Point is, will it help you get started? Yes. If Chris is in the same competition, using a chapter where we're inspired by what he wrote will not get you to beat Chris. Okay? Just so we do a little bit of expectation management here. But yes, it will help because, for instance, what we included in the chapter was also things like, for a long time, YOLO, and with subsequent numbers, has been the thing when it came to object detection. And then boom, along came Detectron, which is pretty much a little bit of annoying work with moving the data because it has hard-coded data conventions for where training and validation have to be, etc., without giving away too much. And it works out of the box. And it's very, very competitive, which was the reason we included this one in place of a YOLO implementation we thought about first, because that's just modern. This is 2022. And well, if people want an intermediate level, I'm assuming they expect something that's not, 10 years old.
Yeah.
Andrada, there's only one Chris. We can dream of that, but he's one and only.
So Bharat also
I share the
inquires that
sentiment.
how relevant are these learnings and insights to do those in actual data science jobs? The learnings that we share in the book about Kaggle.
Luca, you want to take this?
yes. Actually, you can find many relevant information also for your job inside our book. But let's stick to Kaggle competitions. So it is completely misleading to say that Kaggle competitions are not very award. There are,
Totally.
many people that you point out about the data which is too much curated is not true, about the fact that you are just concentrated on one part of an entire data science process or pipeline. But actually, inside every competition, you can get insights, learning about how to deal with data, how to deal with problems that will affect in a very important way how you do things. And you may be lucky and find the competition that actually matches your job and actually problem too. And so you can find even, an higher insight in that case. So I frankly recommend having a look at every Kaggle competition you can, and just spending time Number one, building your own solution. Number two, reading, discussions and, insights from other competitors, and exploring the notebooks. Every aspect of these three pillars will give you enough knowledge and enough insights for all your problems at work. Let's take, for example, Ubiquant. It's still going on, by the way, because we had a 48 hours, kind of delay before closing the competition. I'm still working on it. So, for instance, I work in finance. This is a finance competition. Could I learn something new from that? Yes, quite a lot. I learn a lot about how to approach a problem where you have, correlation between, the targets you are going to learn. How to do, for example, kind of group cross-validation with purge. Yes, targets. Because actually the problem when you are in finance, you can, create a cross-validation scheme with which leaks your information into the future. And leakage, is something that, sometimes we say it spoils Kaggle competition. It's kind of insight and skill that if you learn it well from competitions can help you at work a lot, because you can have in your projects leakage that you won't ever see. In a Kaggle competition, if there's a leakage, someday it will come up. Someone will say, there's a leakage. Let's do something. Or, I hide this leakage for myself all the time, but now everyone uses it, so I will just disclose this leakage. But in your own project,
hashtag Santander. Santander had 3 competitions, 2 out of which had epic leakage.
Yeah.
Which, as far as I'm concerned, that's kind of proverbial for a data that wasn't created. No offense to Santander as a bank, which I kind of like.
It was the leakage of all leakages.
There is an important question over here, and this is by Dr. Faisal Al-Shreed. Gabriel, thank you for answering it in the comments.
Yes, thank you, Gabriel. Yes.
Yes, and Dr. Faisal is inquiring that both of you engage in multiple Kaggle competitions at the same time. Do you recommend people do it the same way, or should they focus only on one competition at a time?
Pretty much what Gabriel said. Focus on one at a time, but iterate through a couple, like at least some, including Santander's, in my case, that are in my, what would you call it, chart sheet, where competitions I tried entered. So I register as having participated, and I was like, oh, blimey, leakage again, yeah, whatever. But you don't disappear from the roll call this competition because you did register and you did submit something. If you figure out those leakage before submitting anything, it won't show up later in your history. But if you did, it will. So that's sort of the issue around this one. But iterating quickly, yeah. I thought I had an idea. I try a few things. Nope, that's utterly not working. And my approach was, okay, I got this one idea I want to try. It's not working. Dump it. Move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Perfectly normal thing to do.
Anyway, Conrad, I think they should put under our profiles, don't do that at home, or do at your own risk.
I'm gonna be 44 in September, so I get to play the age card, and I can say, kids, don't try this at home. Yes.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for this for quite a while.
Yeah. Anyway, Tushar, I would add that it really depends on your purpose. If you want to win a competition, concentrate on one. If you want to learn, it's okay. Also to try different competitions, because the problem is, if you are learning by doing, you should do the more you can. So I had, periods of time, also quite large spans time, where I tried many Kaggle competitions without aiming at arriving in the top 10, without aiming at getting a gold medal, just for the sake of learning. So in that case, it's okay. You can try many. But if you want to get higher in the ranks, if you want to perform very good in a competition, don't underestimate. It will take time and efforts. And so it's better just concentrate on one, as Conrad said.
Yeah. And Fran also inquires a very interesting question. Is your book intended at beginners or noobs, or can it also help advanced strategists as we progress?
I'm fairly certain I'm too old to be a noob, if nothing else. So I hope it kind of can. Like to recycle the same example, using things like Detectron or other ideas that are mentioned in the image processing chapter. I think it can also help people who are more experienced and have a longer tenure on Kaggle. At least I hope so. Listen, I wrote this stuff. If I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't have put my name under it. So I believe it can also help people who are not complete beginners, but it's up to the readers to judge ultimately.
Yeah,
Uh,
actually, we brought it to share, having in mind all the people who are just, beginners in Kaggle, because we were
mm,
wondering. So
yeah.
millions of people, have enlisted in Kaggle and they are not doing nothing. They are just watching.
Yes,
No,
yes.
it's impossible. Something wrong. We should provide them all the knowledge to start Kaggle and start
Mhm.
successfully doing Kaggle. In any case, I cannot say if you're an advanced reader, you can learn anything from the book. I can say from my point of view that by writing it, I learned something new.
Yes, totally.
I would just like to take one last question because I'm pretty sure it's quite getting quite late for other people as well. So we'll take one last question and then we'll do a raffle. So Raj Arjun has been saying comparative data science is an absolute niche, like comparative coding, speed, rapid prototyping, along with accuracy, is a lethal combination. I hope the book helps with competitions and also hone our skills to shine bright in the workplace. Can you share some tricks and traits as a sneak peek into the book?
The image and NLP chapters from my angle. I
Hmm.
think that might be a source of things that can, well, as I mentioned earlier, kickstart you a little bit if you are new to the field. And also, cynical as it's going to sound, if you're trying to propose, say, in a job context, at work, say a certain approach to solving a problem, cynical as it sounds, name dropping works. If you just described this is the architecture that solves your problem on object detection, to keep milking that example to death, chances are people are going to say, "Ma." If you say this is open source published by Facebook Research, all of a sudden people sit up and start paying attention. I mean, the fact that it's a very good solution in its own right doesn't hurt, obviously. But as a tip, try things like this, like leapfrog certain stages that you don't need to. I mean, you don't need to reiterate the steps that I had to take to get where I am. You can leapfrog certain things. Why wouldn't you?
Perfect. I really love Gabriel's response over here. Thank you so much, Gabriel, for commenting in.
Gabriel, respect, officially one-liner of the week. Respect.
I think this should be the perfect end, but we'll do our final raffle before we end this session.
Mhm.
And while we are doing the final draw, uh, so people who purchase this book also be informed. Let's just complete this first. Who is the next winner? Ah, come on, you can't
Come
win the
on.
same book
I don't think
twice.
Abisai needs 2 copies.
Okay, yeah. What is he going to do with two ebooks? No offense, Abisoy. Let's pick a different winner. Filippo Granchi is the second winner. Congratulations,
Congratulations, sir.
Filippo.
Good.
So if you can drop me a message on LinkedIn as well, I'll get the book organized for you. And Conrad, as a closing statement for this session, firstly, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you,
Thanks,
Gabriel,
everyone.
for
Yes.
answering
Thank you.
so many questions. One final question that I would like to end on is, so if people have any queries, if they purchase the book, is Discord the right place to discuss it with you, the community that we've created?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's the place. It's the place because that allows us to, have queries. I hope it will be interesting to people. But as Tushar mentioned, I have a bit of an issue in the modesty angle, so apologies for that. And we know that the questions will be in one place, so there's only one place to
Mm.
check.
Yes. Reach out, please.
Yeah, so everyone gets access to the Discord community. The QR codes and the links are at the end of each and every chapter in the book. You can get onto Discord. It's completely free, and there is a massive community of ever so growing. It's 500 now. Last I checked, there are 500 members there now. We can learn from each other, and Luca and Conrad will be answering queries about anything related to Kaggle. So, yeah, all the best with your learning. Thank you, Conrad, Luca, for
Thank
making
you.
time. And thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone, for attending the session. Hope to see you in the next episode. I will be announcing it very soon. And congratulations to the winners. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn directly, and I'll get your books arranged for you.
Thanks,
All the best,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you,
Have a
everyone.
nice day.
Great.